Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Midsummer. Midsummer, also known as St. John's Day, is the period of time centered upon the summer solstice, and more specifically the Northern European celebrations that accompany the actual solstice, or take place on a day between June 19th and June 25th and the preceding evening. The exact dates vary between different cultures. The Christian Church designated June 24th as the feast day of the early Christian martyr St. John the Baptist, and the observance of St. John's Day begins the evening before, known as St. John's Eve. These are commemorated by many Christian denominations. In Sweden, the midsummer is such an important festivity that there have been serious discussions to make the Midsummer's Eve into the National Day of Sweden, instead of June the 6th. It may also be referred to as St. Hans Day. Background. European midsummer-related holidays, traditions, and celebrations are pre-Christian in origin. They are particularly important in geographic Northern Europe: Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Finland, Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania, but is also very strongly observed in Poland, Russia, Belarus, Germany, Netherlands, Flanders, Ireland, parts of the United Kingdom, France, Italy, Malta, Portugal, Spain, Ukraine, other parts of Europe, and elsewhere such as Canada, the United States, Puerto Rico, and also in the Southern Hemisphere, where this imported European celebration would be more appropriately called midwinter. Midsummer is also sometimes referred to by some neo-pagans as Lither, stemming from Vede's De Temporum Rationa, which provides Anglo-Saxon names for the months roughly corresponding to June and July as Sheara Lither and Sheara Lither, with an intercalary month of Lither appearing after Sheara Lither on leap years. The Fire Festival, or Lither summer solstice, is a tradition for many neo-pagans. Solstice celebrations still centered on the day of the astronomical summer solstice. Some choose to hold the rite on June 21st, even when this is not the longest day of the year. And some celebrate June 24th, the day of the solstice in Roman times. Although midsummer is originally a pagan holiday, in Christianity it is associated with the Nativity of John the Baptist, which is observed on the same day, June 24th. In the Catholic, Orthodox and some Protestant churches, it is 6 months before Christmas, because Luke chapter 1 verse 26 and Luke chapter 1.36 imply that John the Baptist was born 6 months earlier than Jesus, although the Bible does not say at which time of the year this happened. In Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania and Quebec, the traditional Midsummer Day, June 24th, is a public holiday. So it was formerly also in Sweden and Finland, but in these countries it was, in the 1950s, moved to the Friday and Saturday between June 19th and June 26th, respectively. In Wicca, practitioners celebrate on the longest day and shortest night of the year, which has not had a set date since the retirement of the 13-month Celtic calendar. History. The celebration of Midsummer's Eve was from ancient times a festival of the summer solstice. Bonfires were lit to protect against evil spirits which were believed to roam freely when the sun was turning southward again. In later years, witches were also thought to be on the way to meetings with other powerful beings. The solstice itself has remained a special moment of the annual cycle of the year. Since Neolithic times, the concentration of the observance is not on the day as we reckon it, commencing at midnight or at dawn, as it is customary for cultures following lunar calendars to place the beginning of the day on the previous eve at dusk, at the moment when the sun has set. In Sweden, Finland, Latvia and Estonia, Midsummer's Eve is the greatest festival of the year, comparable only with Walpurgis Night, Christmas Eve, and New Year's Eve. Ancient Romans would hold a festival to honor the god Summinus on June 20th. In the 7th century, Saint Eligius warned the recently converted inhabitants of Flanders against the age-old pagan solstice celebrations. According to the Vita by his companion, when "id say no Christian on the feast of St. John, or the solemnity of any other saint performs celestiti at summer solstice rites, or dancing, or leaping a diabolical chants." As Christianity entered pagan areas, midsummer celebrations came to be often borrowed and transferred into new Christian holidays, often resulting in celebrations that mixed Christian traditions with traditions derived from pagan midsummer festivities. The 13th century monk of Winchcombe, Gloucestershire, who compiled a book of sermons for the feast days, recorded how St. John's Eve was celebrated in his time. "Let us speak of the revels which are accustomed to be made on St. John's Eve, of which there are three kinds. On St. John's Eve in certain regions the boys collect bones and certain other rubbish, and burn them, and therefrom a smoke is produced on the air. They also make brands and go about the fields with the brands. Thirdly, the wheel which they roll, the fires," explained the monk of Winchcombe, "were to drive away dragons, which were abroad on St. John's Eve, poisoning springs and wells." The wheel that was rolled downhill, he gave its explicitly solstitial explanation. The wheel is rolled to signify that the sun then rises to the highest point of its circle and at once turns back, thence it comes that the wheel is rolled. On St. John's Day 1333 Petrarch watched women at Cologne rinsing their hands and arms in the Rhine, so that the threatening calamities of the coming year might be washed away by bathing in the river. Austria. In Austria, the midsummer solstice is celebrated each year, with a spectacular procession of ships down the Danube River as it flows through the wine-growing Wachau Valley just north of Vienna. Up to 30 ships sail down the river in line as fireworks erupt from the banks and hilltops, while bonfires blaze and the vineyards are lit up. Lighted castle ruins also erupt with fireworks during the 90-minute cruise downstream. Brazil. Portuguese Street John's Day, brought to Brazil during colonial times, has become a popular event that is celebrated during a period that starts 1 week before St. Antony's Day and ends after St. Peter's Day. This nationwide festival, called Festa Junina, or São João, takes place during midwinter in most of the country. Rural life is celebrated through typical clothing, food, and dance. The quadrilla features couple formations around a mock wedding whose bride and groom are the central attraction of the dancing. A kind of maypole is also raised and used in some festivities. It's prepared a typical hot drink, called quentão, that consists in a mix of fruits and spices with a lacing of cachaça. On St. John's Day Eve celebration, it's sometimes placed a ritual of walking on live coal made of the remnants of the main bonfire, which is a traditional part of the party, on barefoot by midnight. It's believed that if the one who walks is strong in faith, he shall not be hurt. Two northeastern towns in particular have competed with each other for the title of biggest St. John festival in the world, namely Caruaru and Campina Grande in Paraíba. The festivities also coincide with the corn harvest. Dishes served during this period are commonly made with corn, such as canjica and pamonha. Dishes also include boiled or baked vegetable corn, sausages, sweet potatoes, peanuts, and numerous sweet dishes such as rice pudding. The celebrations are very colorful and festive, and include the use of fireworks and bonfires. Bulgaria. On Midsummer Day, Bulgarians celebrate the so-called Enyovdan. On the same day, the Eastern Orthodox Church celebrates the day of John the Baptist, and the rites and traditions of both holidays are often mixed. A fire-related ritual may also be performed in Bulgaria on that day. It involves barefoot dance on smoldering embers and is called Nestinarstvo. Bulgarian folklore states the beginning of summer starts on Enyovdan. It is thought that in the morning of Enyovdan, when the sun rises, it winks and plays. Anyone seeing the sunrise will be healthy throughout the year. It is believed that on Enyovdan a variety of herbs have the greatest healing power, and that this is especially true at sunrise. Therefore, they have to be picked early in the morning before dawn. Women sorceresses and enchantresses go to gather herbs by themselves to cure and make charms. The herbs gathered for the winter must be 77.5 for all diseases and for the nameless disease. Canada. In Newfoundland and Labrador, St. John's Day is observed on the Monday nearest June 24th, and commemorates John Cabot's discovery of Newfoundland in 1497. In Quebec, the celebration of June 24th was brought to New France by the first French colonists. Great fires were lit at night. According to the Jesuit Relations, the first celebrations of St. John's Day in New France took place around 1638. In 1834, Roger Duvenet, printer and editor of Le Minerve, took the leadership of an effort to make June 24 the national holiday of the Canadians. In 1908, Pope Pius X designated John the Baptist as the patron saint of the French Canadians. In 1925, June 24 became a legal holiday in Quebec, and in 1977, it became the secular national holiday of Quebec. It still is the tradition to light great fires on the night of the 24th of June. Denmark. In Denmark, the solstitial celebration is called Sankthans or Sankthansaften. It was an official holiday until 1770, and in accordance with the Danish tradition of celebrating a holiday on the evening before the actual day, it takes place on the evening of the 23rd of June. It is the day where the medieval wise men and women would gather special herbs that they needed for the rest of the year to cure people. It has been celebrated since the times of the Vikings by visiting healing water wells and making a large bonfire to ward away evil spirits. Today the water well tradition is gone. Bonfires on the beach, speeches, picnics and songs are traditional. Although bonfires are built in many other places where beaches may not be close by, in the 1920s, a tradition of putting a witch made of straw and cloth on the bonfire emerged as a remembrance of the church's witch burnings from 1540 to 1693. This burning sends the witch away to Blocksberg, the Brocken mountain in the Harz region of Germany, where the Great Witch Gathering was thought to be held on this day. Some Danes regard the relatively new symbolic witch burning as inappropriate. In 1885, Holger Drachmann wrote a midsummer vise called Vi elsker vort land, with her melody composed by P. Langmuller, that is sung at every bonfire on this evening. Estonia. Jaanipäev was celebrated long before the arrival of Christianity in Estonia. Although the day was given its name by the Crusaders, the day is still known by its many names as Liidafev, Suviinporipäev, Suvaporipäev, Puaripäev, Päivakanak, Päivakanjane, Päiväpesa, Pesapev and Suudpivad. The arrival of Christianity however, did not end pagan beliefs and fertility rituals surrounding this holiday. In 1578, Balthazar Russo wrote in his Livonian Chronicle about Estonians who placed more importance on the festival than going to church. He complained about those who went to church, but did not enter, and instead spent their time lighting bonfires, drinking, dancing, singing, and following pagan rituals. Midsummer marks a change in the farming year, specifically the break between the completion of spring sowing and the hard work of summer haymaking. Understandably, some of the rituals of Janipev have very strong folkloric roots. The best-known Janak, or midsummer, ritual is the lighting of the bonfire and jumping over it. This is seen as a way of guaranteeing prosperity and avoiding bad luck. Likewise, to not light the fire is to invite the destruction of your house by fire. The fire also frightened away mischievous spirits who avoided it at all costs, thus ensuring a good harvest. So, the bigger the fire, the further the mischievous spirits stayed away. Estonians celebrate Jaaniochu on the eve of the summer solstice with bonfires. On the islands of Saaremaa and Hiiumaa, old fishing boats may be burned in the large pyres set ablaze. On Jaaniochu, Estonians all around the country will gather with their families, or at larger events, to celebrate this important day with singing and dancing, as Estonians have done for centuries. The celebrations that accompany Jaaniochu carry on usually through the night. They are the largest and most important of the year, and the traditions are almost identical to Finland and similar to neighbors Latvia and Sweden. Jaanipäev is usually spent in a summer cottage, where people light bonfires, or at a festival, such as Pyhäjärvi in Otepää. Since 1934, June 23rd is also National Victory Day of Estonia, and both 23rd and 24th are holidays and flag days. The Estonian flag is not lowered in the night between these 2 days. Faroe Islands. On the Faroe Islands, St. John's Eve is generally not celebrated. However, on the southernmost island of Suðuroy it is observed by lighting a bonfire. Only one bonfire is lit on the island, as one of the 2 biggest towns hosts the celebration, alternately every other year. Finland. The summer solstice was called Jukonjuhla after the Finnish god Ukko. After the celebrations were Christianized, the holiday became known as Juhannus after John the Baptist. Since 1955, the holiday has always been on a Saturday. Earlier it was always on June 24th. Many of the celebrations of Midsummer take place on Midsummer Eve, when many workplaces are closed, and shops may close their doors at noon. In the Finnish Midsummer celebration, bonfires are very common and are burned at lakesides and by the sea. Often branches from birch trees are placed on both sides of the front door to welcome visitors. Swedish-speaking Finns often celebrate by erecting a midsummer maypole. Some Finland Swedes call the holiday Johannes after the Finnish term Juhannus, or more accurately after the biblical John the Baptist. In folk magic, midsummer was a very potent night and the time for many small rituals, mostly for young maidens seeking suitors and fertility. Will-o'-the-wisps were believed to appear at midsummer night, particularly to finders of the mythical fern in bloom and possessors of the fern seed, marking a treasure. In the old days, maidens would use special charms and bend over a well, naked, in order to see their future husband's reflection. In another tradition that continues still today, an unmarried woman collects 7 different flowers and places them under her pillow to dream of her future husband. An important feature of the midsummer in Finland is the white night and the midnight sun. Because of Finland's location spanning around the Arctic Circle, the nights near the midsummer day are short and non-existent. This gives a great contrast to the darkness of the winter time. The temperature can vary between 0 degrees Celsius and plus 30 degrees Celsius, with an average of about 20 degrees Celsius in the south. Many Finns leave the cities for midsummer and spend time in the countryside.
Nowadays many spend a few days there, and some Finns take their whole vacation in a cottage. Rituals include bonfires, cookouts, a sauna and spending time together. Heavy drinking is also associated with the Finnish midsummer. Many music festivals of all sizes are organized on the midsummer weekend. It is also common to start summer holidays on Midsummer Day. For many families, the midsummer is the time when they move to the countryside to their summer cottage by the sea or lake.
Midsummer is also a Finnish Flag Day, where the flag is hoisted at 6 p.m. on Midsummer's Eve and flown all night till 9 p.m. the following evening. Finnish Canadians in the New Finland district, Saskatchewan, Canada celebrate Johannes. France. In France, they traditionally celebrated with bonfires that are reminiscent of midsummer's pagan rituals, is a Catholic festivity and celebration of St. John the Baptist. It takes place on June 24th. On Midsummer Day, in certain French towns, a tall bonfire is built by the inhabitants in order to be lit on St. John's Day. In the region and in the southern part of this huge bonfire is named Germany. The day of sun solstice is called in German. On June 20th, 1653, the Nuremberg Town Council issued the following order, where experience hereafter have shown, that after the old heathen use on John's Day in every year, in the country, as well in towns as villages, money and wood have been gathered by young folk, and thereupon the so-called azimut fire kindled, and thereat wine bibbing, dancing about the said fire, leaping over the same, with burning of sundry herbs and flowers, and setting of brands from the said fire in the fields, and in many other ways all manner of superstitious work carried on. Therefore the Hon. Council of Nuremberg town neither can nor ought to forbear to do away with all such unbecoming superstition, paganism, and peril of fire on this coming day of St. John. Bonfires are still a custom in many areas of Germany. People gather to watch the bonfire and celebrate solstice. Hungary. On June 21st, Hungarians celebrate St. Ivan's Night. The whole month of June was once called the month of St. Ivan until the 19th century. Setting fires is a folklore tradition. This night, girls jumped over it, while boys watched the spectacle. Most significant among the customs of the summer is lighting the fire of Midsummer Night on the day of St. John, when the sun follows the highest course, when the nights are the shortest and the days the longest. The practice of venerating St. John the Baptist developed in the Catholic Church during the 5th century, and at this time they put his name and day on June 24th. The summer solstice was celebrated among most peoples, so the Hungarians may have known it even before the Hungarian conquest of the Carpathian Basin. Although the Arab historian Ibn Rusta speaks of the Hungarians fire-worshipping, so far there is no data that could connect it to this day. In the Middle Ages it was primarily an ecclesiastical festivity, but from the 16th century on the sources recall it as a folk custom. The most important episode of the custom is the lighting of the fire. The custom survived longest, and in the most complete form in the northwestern part of the linguistic region, where as late as the 1930s they still lit a midsummer night fire. The way of arranging the participants by age and by sex has suggested the possibility that these groups sang by answering each other. But there are hardly any remnants that appear to support this possibility. People jumped over the fire after they lit it. This practice is mentioned as early as the 16th century, although at that time in connection with a wedding. Still, it is called Midsummer Night Fire.
The purpose of jumping over the fire is partly to purify, partly because they believed that those whose jump was very successful would get married during the following carnival.
Iran. Taigan is one of ancient Iranian festival coinciding with the midsummer festivals. Another midsummer festival is Gilaki Bal Nowruz, which is held in the north of Iran. Bal Nowruz, meaning the fire of Nowruz, is the name of a festival celebrated on the first day of our Nowruz. And this is the first day of the Alaman New Year. Lighting the fire, thanking God for his blessings and crops, and praying for the peace of the souls of the dead were parts of this ancient Iranian tradition.
This ceremony coincides with harvesting in Gilan. On the first day of our Nowruz, the newlywed couples who have married in the past year get given white horses to ride up to the foot of the mountain. As the brides and grooms reach the mountain foot, a yellow cow is set free, as a sign of happiness and abundance for the new couples.
Ireland. Many towns and cities have midsummer carnivals with fairs, concerts and fireworks either on or on the weekend nearest to midsummer. In rural spots, particularly the northwest, bonfires are lit on hilltops. This tradition harks back to pagan times and is now associated with St. John's Night. The Irish Environmental Protection Agency, after much initial upset in the west of Ireland, has an exemption for the burning of fires outdoors during Midsummer Night. Traditionally, the longest day of the year in Ireland falls on June 21st. Italy. In Italy there is the San Giovanni's Day. The feast of St. John the Baptist has been celebrated in Florence from medieval times, and certainly in the Renaissance, with festivals sometimes lasting 3 days from 21 to the 24th of June.
Such celebrations are held nowadays in Cesena from June 21st to 24, also with a special street market. St. John the Baptist was the patron saint of Genoa, Florence, and Turin, where a fireworks display take place during the celebration on the river. In Turin, St. John's cult was also diffused since medieval times, when the city stops to work for 2 days and people from the surroundings come to dance around the bonfire in the central square.
Nowadays St. John is the patron saint of Turin, and he was celebrated on June 24th, which is a city public holiday. Italian neo-pagans usually celebrates the midsummer with rites, dances, and festivals all around the country. Jersey. In Jersey, most of the former midsummer customs are largely ignored nowadays. The custom known as Les Contes de la Saint Jean was observed as late as the 1970s. Horns or conch shells were blown, ringing the Bacchant at midsummer to frighten away evil spirits survived as a custom on some farms until the 1940s, and has been revived as a folk performance in the 21st century. Latvia. In Latvia, midsummer is called Jāņa Līgo Svētki. It is a national holiday celebrated from the night of June 23 through June 24 on a large scale by almost everyone in Latvia and by people of Latvian origin abroad. Celebrations consist of a lot of traditional and mostly pagan elements: eating Jāņa cheese, drinking beer, baking pierogi, singing Latvian folk songs dedicated to Jāņi, burning bonfires to keep light all through the night, and jumping over it, wearing wreaths of flowers and oak leaves together with modern commercial products and ideas. There are tens and hundreds of different beliefs and traditions all over Latvia on what should be done on that day for good harvest, for predicting the future, for attracting your future spouse, etc. People decorate their houses and lands with birch or sometimes oak branches and flowers as well as leaves, especially fern.
In rural areas, livestock is also decorated. In modern days, small oak branches with leaves are attached to the cars in Latvia during the festivity. Jāņi has been a strong aspect of Latvian culture throughout history. Originating in pre-Christian Latvia as an ancient fertility cult, in the western town of Kuldīga, revelers mark the holiday by running naked through the town at 3 in the morning.
The event has taken place since 2000. Runners are rewarded with beer, and police are on hand in case any Puritans attempt to interfere with the naked run. Norway. As in Denmark, Sankthansaften is celebrated on June 23 in Norway.
The day is also called John's Sock, which means John's Wake, important in Roman Catholic times, with pilgrimages to churches and holy springs. For instance, up until 1840, there was a pilgrimage to the Roldal Stave Church in Roldal whose crucifix was said to have healing powers. Today, however, Sankthansaften is largely regarded as a secular or even pre-Christian event.
In most places, the main event is the burning of a large bonfire. In Western Norway, a custom of arranging mock weddings, both between adults and between children, is still kept alive. The wedding was meant to symbolize the blossoming of new life. Such weddings are known to have taken place in the 1800s, but the custom is believed to be older.
It is also said that, if a girl puts flowers under her pillow that night, she will dream of her future husband.
Thank you for watching. Brought to you by WikiVD Documentaries. Please like and subscribe below. Please like and subscribe below.